Hello there, and welcome back to another developer interview. I'm here with Morgan Day, Associate Game Director, and Patrick Scarborough, Senior Game Designer, and we're going to talk about patch 10.2, Guardians of the Dream, I believe is the name of it. Did I get that right?
That is it.
That's the one.
The Dream has many guardians, and they're all in this patch.
I guess the most important question is, how are you guys doing?
I'm good. I'm awake. I'm ready.
You caught me off guard with that one. Yeah, I'm great.
It's the most important question.
Most important.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot going on within World of Warcraft. This week we are releasing Fury Incarnate. There's a lot of really cool stuff, a lot of fun story updates that are happening that really are leading us into Guardians of the Dream and building some of that context. A lot of fun character development happening. I've seen people talking a lot about Viranoth and kind of the curveball that was thrown this week with that, and there's some fun continuation of that story in Guardians of the Dream.
Yeah, I think it was kind of cool actually, because I do a lot of PTR testing on the 10.17 PTR specifically, with so much story content that we obviously didn't see, and I think that's so good, just having like all that kind of story content encrypted. And honestly, like we obviously had hints towards Emerald Dream, but we didn't know that to the scale of 10.2 obviously. So I guess kind of rolling into the general questions about 10.2 and all that kind of stuff. So the Dream Wardens are the new Renown track in 10.2. How many levels of Renown can we expect from them?
I believe it's 20. Please don't attack me if I'm wrong, but I believe they are fashioned similarly to the Niffin, to where it's sort of just 20, and you will earn renown from them. Kind of doing everything, hanging out in the Emerald Dream Zone.
Awesome. Will be any kind of existing changes to God, I'm losing it. Oh, it's morning for you guys. It's like 5:30 for me. I'm terrible at this.
It's okay.
Long day already.
We're at a similar level of messing up. No, go for it.
All right. Can we expect any updates to existing Renown tracks?
This is something that we talked about, Morgan and I. We don't have any updates specifically to Guardians of the Dream, but it is something that could probably change in the future. Right now we're really focused on the Emerald Dream, the Dream Wardens, and kind of everything here. But certainly doesn't seem like it would be a bad idea, as the expansion rolls on, right? And if people haven't unlocked those alt bonuses or anything, especially if people come later.
Yeah, and a lot of, as you might have noticed, kind of the cadence of our content updates, there's often an incarnate as well as a dragonflight that we're kind of telling a deeper story with as we go, right? Like we saw with Eridicron and the Bronze Dragonflight with the Mega Dungeon and the content update there, where this one is very much focused on Farak, obviously. Viranoth is starting to play a larger role, and then the Green Dragons. And, there's a lot of really awesome story content in the Anaran Plains with the Green Dragons that people might not have seen. So you are not the first person to ask that question. And, we love player feedback, and that's one of the great parts of this process is we get to hear those ideas. And I hadn't thought about that originally, but that seems like something that we can take back to the team for sure.
Amazing. You kind of hinted at future Dragonflight patches. Maybe this is a bit of a big question that you might not have to answer, but is 10.2 the last major patch of Dragonflight?
Nothing new to announce there. Guardians of the Dream is a major update that we're excited about. There's a new season, a new raid. But what we can say is that this is not the end of the story, right? There's more story to tell after Guardians of the Dream, and we're really excited to see where that takes us.
Amazing. I guess kind of talking about, the release cadence and things like that. So obviously BlizzCon coming up in not too far away now. It's the beginning of November. Is Guardians of the Dream something we could expect probably before or after BlizzCon at this point?
Are you asking what's the release date question?
I'm just shooting my shot.
I love these parts of the interviews because I don't say anything and I let Morgan sweat. I'm like, interesting release dates.
It is not a coincidence that release date was mysteriously omitted from the materials that you saw. So nothing to announce in terms of dates, but like you and many have noticed, we're really aiming to hit a really satisfying, responsible content cadence. And as I mentioned, Fury Incarnate is coming out this week, which means something new might be up on the PTR in the not too distant future. And then, I would expect more news on that front not too far from now.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm sorry for that. You can stop sweating now.
No,
I've got some gameplay questions for you.
Oh yeah. No, those are the easy ones. Always, certainly.
Just don't ask story questions because Denise will get mad at me because I say things.
Oh, you're good. I haven't got any of that. Super Bloom public events are coming in 10.2. I guess not a ton of information given on the press release thing that I saw. I guess could you tell me a little bit more about how that's going to work and whatnot?
Yeah,
go for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say super blooms are sort of you can almost think of them as kind of an evolution or a hybrid between stuff like the Researchers Under Fire event that was in Zeralek Cavern. We have kind of a multi-stage thing that everyone's working together for, as well as almost like the soup from the original Dragonflight patch, and you get to be a lot more mobile. You get to move around. The Emerald Dream, at least the portion that we're visiting, is a very big zone. Certainly big enough to dragon ride in. And when you combine that with some of the wacky powers and effects that you can get in the Super Bloom, we think they'll be very different and very variable. Morgan and I keep saying in a lot of these, there's one where you can rescue baby moonkins and they follow you in an army and shoot moon beams at people. And then the one that I like a lot is you transform into moonkin yourself. You kind of like flutter and flap through the sky and you're just calling down moons all over the place. So, trying to capture some of that excitement of the kind of unbridled energy of the dream and how things there are really different from anywhere else, and kind of rule breaking in that sense.
Yeah, it's similar to like Cobalt Assembly, how you got those really interesting buffs as you progress through it. Similar to that, but then also with that public event wrapper kind of on top of it.
How often would they be?
I don't know.
Subject to change. Yeah,
TBA.
Again, I would look at things like Researchers Under Fire in terms of like precedent that we've had in the past and frequency you can expect there. So something along those lines.
What I can actually say is taking feedback from the Researchers event and moving into this one, at least as far as the rewards cadence goes, you will get the biggest reward from doing it your first time. So it's somewhat similar to some of the launch Dragonflight things there where, it's really something you'll want to hit at least once a week, but there still are, kind of diminishing reasons to do it again and again. But if you're aiming for some of those sweet, new, exciting, outdoor armors and things that you can find on the Renown track that are some of my favorite sets coming into this one, you have like really overgrown knight armor and stuff that's exciting like that. You will want to do them at least once a week, but they will be regular enough that will not be like a massive challenge to do.
Excellent. They're kind of like a time rift on steroids in the Emerald Dream, essentially. Just like crazy step-by-step stuff.
I accept that. I think I
like that. Put it in the description. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I guess kind of I didn't write this down actually, but Dream Surges obviously happening right now in 10.1.7. Are they going to continue to happen in 10.2?
I don't know, but I believe so. I think similar to how all of the previous events are kind of constantly running, I think you will continue to see them happen. I don't think they're like intended to be like a pre-patch feature that's necessarily going to go away. I don't know 100% for sure, but I think you will continue to see them happening, and you can go back and do them over time and make sure you get those rewards that you want from them.
Amazing. Yeah, similar to how we had the vaults and the Forbidden Reach, and those kind of continued on. Same thing I would expect here.
Awesome. So dragon riding, you kind of hinted at like so you could dragon ride in the Emerald Dream. I kind of had a thought because I saw the map and I was like, what happens? Because it's obviously just a section of the Emerald Dream, right? So if you go like furthest to the right, let's say, what happens? Like in the Zeralek Cavern, you hit a wall. In like on the Dragon Isles, you hit water. But what happens in the Emerald Dream?
This is funny. I don't actually know. You might get sleepy. It might be like, hey, don't go there. But no, like you hit on, it is a pretty expansive zone. It's certainly like I think like maybe the size of the Anaran Plains, maybe a little bigger. It's something that the team is really excited about and feels like it is big and vast. It also has a great diversity of things in it, right? We have some of these kind of Firelands invaders, and there will be a lot of story around what's going on with that and the Primalists as they kind of make their way in. But there's also, some life temples and, structures and settlements that aren't exactly as we would think of them in, kind of our mortal plane. You're kind of stepping into the Dream Warden territory. You're seeing kind of ancient temples and things that they are using to kind of steward the dream. So a very different space than regular WoW is maybe used to, but something that we're still pretty excited about as far as the size and the things you can do there.
I think, I mean, there was an Emerald Dream map back in Vanilla WoW that was like, obviously, that didn't happen. So I think it's finally coming to fruition. I think a lot of people are excited about that.
Emerald Nightmare, I think, was the first time that, we actually had, at the end of that Emerald Nightmare raid in Legion, there was that little section of space called the Emerald Dream. And, it's really cool, the kind of the visual language, right? Those like really spirally shapes in the ground and the flowers, and then those big stone statues that look really stoic. Are all very iconic and very present in the Guardians of the Dream, Emerald Dream space. And then also, just real quick, Patrick was very close to correct with it. You get sleepy if you fly east, but essentially, from a gameplay perspective, that boundary will exist, and it essentially will place you softly back into the Emerald Dream zone if you try to get to like the Emerald Dream version of what's east.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is just tied to the fact that, and there will certainly be more actual story content for people to dive into. We are guests in the Dream. We aren't there as just another place to, to go stomp around and kind of make our mark on. We're there to aid the Green Dragonflight and everyone who helps and kind of, like I said, stewards the Dream as they are fending off Farak and his forces in kind of the birth of Amir Jasil, where the raid takes place. So a lot of that is, not that we're like, we don't want you to be there. It's just kind of, trying to direct your focus and make sure that you are within this space that the Dream Wardens are allowing you to be, so that you can help aid them.
Yeah, I'm sure the zone's big enough for you not even to realize that you're just stumbling into the wrong bits and things like that. So
it also feels very appropriate and Fey-like for you to kind of get lost in this endless green space. So yeah I dig it.
I guess staying on dragon riding. So I would imagine we're going to have new glyphs and things like that to collect around the Dragon Isles. Does that include new abilities, maybe, or some sort of new ability or passive ability?
So as you guessed, there are absolutely new glyphs to discover, new races, of course. People always enjoy finding the new races and then participate in them. And there are some traits. I forget the names off the top of my head, but the one that I'm most excited about is the new ground skimming. You'll actually be able to regain vigor while in Throw the Sky. Is that what it's called? When I'm like top speed mode. And then there's also one where essentially when you slam on the brakes, it's almost like an air brake. It actually kind of lets you hover there for a minute so that you can actually halt your momentum and look around and maybe keep going.
Try to hit something if you're trying to get on the top of something there.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe when you're getting herbs or something, that would have been useful. For myself quite a few times throughout the expansion.
Yeah. On the topic of dragon riding, though, and things to collect, we are excited there's going to be a whole host of new customizations, but also a new dragon riding mount that exists, similar to the Winding Slither Drake in Zarela Cavern. This one is going to be a fairy dragon, which I know Morgan is super excited about. The big fairy dragon lover. Yeah. So you get to ride on one of those and continue to customize them as well. That is awesome that it comes from this unique space.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple more really interesting and fun dragon riding stuff. If you earned the Netherwing Drake from the trading post, there's actually some customizations coming for that mount in this update. And we also have our first not dragon riding mount.
Yes.
Which you might have seen if you got a sneak peek at the features trailer.
Yep. So that was like most of the questions about dragon riding.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, we're just jumping
more.
You guys, more dragon riding. No, go for it.
So I actually have questions about Mr. Fire Owl that you mentioned, the mythic mount. So it's listed as a dynamic flying mount. So there's obviously been dynamic and static flying as like a sort of thing that could come in the future. Is that something we see in 10.2, or is that beyond that?
Sorry, what?
So the dynamic and static flying. Yeah, so but not static flying. Because there was like some abilities. Perhaps it's just like development stuff, but there was like dynamic flying and then static flying as like a toggle of some sort.
Oh, interesting. I don't believe that is something in Guardians of the Dream. As you can imagine, the team tries all kinds of things that don't always necessarily make
Yeah.
it into the live game. But yeah, I mean, that new Dragon Riding ability that we're talking about hopefully kind of scratches that itch where you're like, hey, I need to slam on the brakes and just hover for a second.
Yeah.
So that, having something like that isn't going to be something in Guardians of the Dream. But, like we've mentioned in the past, Dragon Riding is something that we, really enjoy. We've heard a ton of great feedback from the players. Originally, we were kind of positioning it as a Dragon Flight feature. But we definitely feel like we would be remiss if we didn't include it into the game as a whole. But there's problems to solve there, as you can imagine, before being able to do that. And we've also been kind of dabbling with things like Outland Cup, which lets you Dragon Ride outside of the Dragon Isles in more limited ways. So that's kind of giving players the opportunity to try those out, and for us to test things in a more focused way as well.
A kind of perfect segue for the next question. So we've had Kalimdor, Eastern Kingdoms Cups. Outland Cup was kind of on the achievement list for 10.17. Saw that kind of creeping in there. Is that something we might be able to see during 10.2 potentially?
Are you familiar with that one, Patrick?
I'm not. That's part of the game that I let myself be surprised by.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something like I mentioned, the team has been really enjoying enabling Dragon Riding in these more controlled ways and other continents, because ultimately, when we created Dragon Riding, the speed is a really important part of Dragon Riding and making it feel like super fast and exciting and let you move around the world. But Dragon Flight, as we talked about at the beginning of the expansion, is one of our largest continents we've ever made. And if you took that exact same speed and you put it on in other spaces, it could, you would be overshooting POIs in a hurry, and it could make the world feel way smaller in a way that is less enjoyable for players to explore. So there's definitely things that the team is kind of tweaking and experimenting with, and Outland is one of those ones that I don't know the specifics on that one, but it wouldn't surprise me if the team was had an event in the not too distant future there.
Amazing. All right, last last dragon riding question. So the Fire Owl, will that work outside of the Dragon Isles? Because it's a dynamic flying mount.
I don't believe that it does. I believe it's beholden to the same rules that the Nether Drake is as well, right? Which is being sort of a you can sort of think of it as like, well, it's a trading post mount, so you didn't get it in the Dragon Isles, but it is a dragon riding mount. So I don't believe that it is. I believe that it is at least for now just a Dragon Isles kind of dragon riding mount.
That's cool. Yeah, I think it looks awesome though. I'm really looking forward to seeing the animations on that, because it's not. It's like, it is the first non-dragon, right? I think.
Yes, that is correct.
That's awesome.
The first, yeah.
Completely switching gears now. PvP. So the new PvP Brawl, Battleground Blitz, I believe it's called. So that's like essentially solo queue rated battlegrounds, I believe. Will it have a rated system as well?
Yeah, so I mean, if you're familiar with, I would say it was the end of Shadowlands where we introduced solo shuffle as a brawl. That was our way of kind of testing out the solo queue in arena. I would say look to that as a blueprint on this brawl as well. We want to release this Battleground Blitz as a brawl, get player feedback, kind of test out some of the changes that we're making in terms of like team sizes, the duration of the maps. There's actually a lot of changes that kind of happen under the hood with the queuing system that we don't usually share too much about, but all of that is very technical and important for kind of the overall experience of the battleground, or in this case, the brawl. And depending on how that rolls out, what player feedback is like, the door is very much open for that to become a more permanent rated feature moving forward.
Excellent. Moving into PvE, I guess it is kind of PvP as well, because the new upgrade system is kind of getting some changes in 10.2. Could you kind of dive into a little bit more about that, if possible?
Yeah, so Embers of Lothlorien saw us adding this, universal upgrade system. I don't think we ever landed on a name for it other than that. But it was kind of, pitched to all of you as an experiment because it was a really big deal. It was a really big change. We added a whole lot of names, a whole lot of currencies. We were like, are people going to take to this? And we're happy to say that we really love the response to it, and we are continuing it as far as Guardians of the Dream is concerned. But it was a first draft, and we want to make a bunch of changes that kind of smooth out the experience, both from things that we saw that were maybe negative, but also a lot of feedback that players had. So starting with some of the positives, some of the things that people have really talked about, we're giving you your bag space back. So fragments are going away entirely. I know this is like some people are out there rejoicing. Fragments are going away entirely. They're just crests now. And all of those different types of crests are now in the currency tab. So no having to figure out like, oh, I have 12 of this and I have to do something that'll give me 8, but I can only get 1. None of that conversion math, none of anything to think about. Another one that we're really excited about is if you do any content that would reward you with a crest, like say a Mythic Plus at a 16 level, you got an aspect crest, but you're capped on those. Previously, you had to go back and do 11s because I was like, oh, but I need some worm crest, so I have to go back and do content I don't necessarily want to do. Now, if you are capped, it will give you the next one down anytime you would earn a crest. So you can just stay doing whatever raid, whatever content, whatever anything in the world that you like to do, and it will basically backfill you as you do that, which we think will be a huge boon to players. The other side of this is, as much as we love the upgrade system, we saw that a lot of players were jumping in item levels like dramatically very early on, right? To the point where some really invested, like Mythic Raiders, hit week 2 and they were like, I'm done on my character. I need maybe 1 or 2 trinkets to farm, but like in terms of pure item level, I'm basically at cap, right? And that's something that we felt like was a little too fast, but also had a lot of knock-on effects to things like tuning for various content, right? It was, not everything felt as challenging or as smooth a progression as you might expect if everybody kind of rockets to the top. So we are taking the amount of upgrades that you can do per week from 10 down to 6. It's still going to have that rolling cap, right? Where you can still build these up and go if you're not the kind of person who caps out literally every time. But if you'll recall, we added the myth track in Fractures in Time in 10.1.5, right, which allowed you to upgrade things from the Great Vault and Mythic Raid and stuff at that level. We're actually expanding the hero and myth tracks as well, so that if you do get mostly hero gear, it can go further, and if you get myth gear, it can go all the way to the end. So our expectation is that earlier on, you will see people kind of go slower, but you will actually reach a higher point by the end, and there's more of that smooth curve rather than the start of Embers of Lothlorien, where people kind of hit the ceiling very quickly and then kind of flatlined as they were like, well, I have no more upgrades to get. So overall, I know that was a lot of words to throw at you, but overall, we're happy and think that this represents kind of a healthier way to move the system forward that doesn't just be like, oh, we nerfed the early upgrades and just kind of left it at that, right? We like that players are hitting these caps. We like that players are hitting a point where they feel done with a certain character. We want to encourage stuff like that, right? So trying to make sure that we are making this feel fully supported and not just a kind of start it and then you're done sort of experience.
Awesome. Thank you for the answer. That's actually, exactly the kind of answer I wanted, like a nice long explanation.
I was like,
perfect. You were ready.
Well, you kind of can't say any one individual part of it because you're just going to be like,
yeah,
expand on that. Say more.
Right, yeah.
So you got to get it. You got to shotgun fire. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it very much is a package of changes, right? Like you need to make quite a few changes at once to make that any individual of those pieces feel like it makes sense. Right. Something we actually haven't talked about yet, but is item upgrade adjacent. We're making a change where I know for I'm personally really excited about, which is we're adding more dungeon availability to the Great Vault in terms of if you do a heroic dungeons or Mythic 0 dungeons, say for the weekly quests that pop up, that'll actually populate your Great Vault. So that will count towards that. So it's not only a Mythic Plus row anymore. And those are, items that you get out of there will be upgradable with the item upgrade system. And, that's one of those things where we love dungeons. We think they're amazing. We added some, weekly quests to get people engaging in heroic dungeons. And we felt like, hey, if you're someone who's doing those heroic dungeon quests but not getting a Great Vault, that seems weird. Can we fix that? So that's a change that'll be coming in Guardians of the Dream. Sorry, there are many Guardians.
You got to get all of them in there. Yeah.
I actually love that for, as you said, we're doing the 5 heroics and stuff like that. Will that include, so I assume, like, obviously, because heroic dungeons are the Dragonflight dungeons, that'll have gear from, so say if you just did heroic dungeons in a week, like, it would just give you gear from those heroic dungeons in the vault, I presume, not just, like, from the Mythic Plus items pool. If that makes sense.
I don't know for sure, but I would expect that it gives you from the pool for the season. I think it would be weird to say, like, oh, you get access to different items or potentially older items, right? Because we already have this concept where, if you were doing Algathar Academy at a Mythic 0 at a heroic level in season 2 of Dragonflight, you wouldn't get those items out of your vault, right? You couldn't get like a puzzle box that you could upgrade, right? So I think in the spirit of saying, hey, if you're a player who isn't quite up to that level, or Mythic Plus isn't your deal, but you still want to obtain those things, we would probably just keep it to still giving you the ability to kind of work up to the same playing field everyone else is on, rather than creating any potential odd scenarios where you want to only do heroics because you want the highest possible old item that you could get or anything like that.
Yeah. You're not going to see like if you do a time walking event or time walking is active, that would count as doing a heroic dungeon, but you're not going to get like time walking items.
A ring from Wrath of the Lich King.
Totally.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Time Walking got upgradable items as well recently as well, so that's pretty cool to see. We've probably got a question. Well, probably about time for one more. I ask this every interview, so I'm going to ask it once again.
Okay.
Class race combinations. Class race combinations. So we had, what was the last one? Warlocks. We had, obviously that's something that's ongoing. Is that something we'll see in 10.1 or probably just beyond that, I suppose? Because a lot of them have been in the 0.5 and 7 patches, haven't they, for the most part?
Yeah, exactly. So none that are being added in Guardians of the Dream. Like you mentioned, that's been kind of an ongoing initiative that the team has felt really strongly about. Ultimately, we want to create a world. We want to create opportunities for you to be able to make, whatever character you feel represents you, and be able to, whatever you want to be. We want you to be able to represent yourself within World of Warcraft and create kind of the most inclusive game we can. So that's definitely an initiative we would like to continue. Nothing in Guardians of the Dream. With that said, though, that's not to say there aren't cool class options that are opening up with this update. As you might have mentioned, druids are kind of a big deal in this content update, and we would be remiss if we didn't add something for druids there. So there are some really cool new customizations. There are some new options for Moonkin, which we've heard a couple requests for over the years, right. And there's some other ones too, Patrick. I think you could talk about.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, like Morgan is saying, if people saw how there was the kind of Warlock quest and associated like demon updates and customization changes that happened previously, there will be a lot of fun and exciting druid customizations and forms to find. Some of them will be secret. I will be attacked if I say too much about them, but some of them come from the raid, and there is a very exciting, very cool penultimate boss in the raid that is a flame druid that may have a specific form that is earnable if you defeat him as a druid, that we're all very excited about. So certainly for people out there who have been fans of the Firelands and things like that, there will be some unique models and some cool new forms overall for druids to get that, like Morgan said, it makes sense. You're visiting the Emerald Dream. This is like where druids draw their power from. If we didn't give them a little something for this, I think people would be sad.
Awesome. That's an amazing answer. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I think that's all the time we got. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time, guys. And I'll see you in the dream. Is that too corny? It's a little bit corny, isn't it?
No, see me in the dream. Let's go. Let's hang out. I will go to the dream. Absolutely. And nowhere else.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time.
Have a good one.
Thank you.